Okay, hope is the thing with feathers. This is the poem that we're gonna look at, written by Emily Dickinson. Remember last week we had the so-called somehow lesson, which went totally haywire because of the internet. That was interesting. Suddenly I was gone, and then some of you were gone, and I don't know what it was, and we couldn't get back in. It was interesting. Yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, last week we kind of got only to talking about who Emily Dickinson is, basically, and showed you the picture. This person who lived in the 1830. I was born in 1830. She passed away also still. She was very young, so she didn't get that old. Yeah, she died in 1886. So yeah, she must have gotten like around 60 or so. And she wrote nearly 1,800 poems, and she's very famous. It's more still called a more modern poetry. Very famous for her works, for her poetry, and for her prose. So Emily Dickinson, that is the one that we're gonna look at. So you can also look it up by yourself, poets.org. It's a very good place to find a lot of information. Before we continue in that further, I would like to look at some poetic devices. Yeah. Whoops, wait. Let's look at some poetic devices. Here we can see, let's put this way. Okay, figurative language and literary devices. Basically, literary devices are divided by literary techniques and literary elements. Now, the literary elements are the elements that make up the story. Those are the parts that are needed in a story. Talking about the plot, we're talking about setting, talking about the rising action, climax, falling action, talking about theme, talking about moods, talking about symbols, the antagonist, the protagonist. We're talking about all these factors or elements then that are important in order to create one story. In literature, that is very important. Now, the literary techniques, on the other hand, that is the figurative language. Those are the techniques such as the figurative language, the sensory details that are used in order to create imagery, to create meaning, to create effect. And those techniques are used by the author. They don't have to use them all, but it's up to the author what is used and how it is used in order to create deeper underlying meaning and effect in the story. So if we're saying literary devices, we're talking about elements and techniques. The literary elements are the components that make up the story, and the literary techniques are the devices or techniques used in order to create meaning and effect in the story. Okay, know that difference. Now, in poetry itself, in poetry, we have even poetic devices. Yeah, we'll get to that. Now, here are some very famous writers, and here we've got Emily Dickinson. Yeah. Oh. So the what's define poetry? Poetry from the Greek, poiesis means making. It's a form of literary art in which language is used for its aesthetic and evocative qualities in addition to or in lieu of its apparent meaning. So basically you're saying something, but you're meaning something else. There's a lot of wordplay and a lot of underlying meaning in poetry, and therefore it's called a work of art. Poetry may be written independently as discrete poems, or may occur in conjunction with other arts, as in poetic drama, hymns, or lyrics. So sometimes poetry can be involved in music, can be involved in drama, can be coerced with other arts, forms of art. And just so you know, lyrics of a song is poetry. So the lyrics of a song actually is referred to as poetry. All right, cool. What does that all mean? Now, what is the real definition? think about it. What does it mean to you? Poetry basically means a whole lot. For you, it might be maybe, well, poetry to me means the yada 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 of a lot of rhyming and stuff, and it means something in between. Sounds good, but it's hard to follow. For a lot of people, it's hard to follow. But poetry basically is this depth of language in which you find so much meaning, uh, but brought in such simplicity, basically, or even quite complicated in sometimes, seeming to be a short verse, a short part of writing, yet so powerfully strong in its meaning. Yeah, so why is poetry? What it means definitely depends on how you see it, but basically, it has a very deep meaning. So, why is poetry important? Okay, it takes a simple concept and makes it more powerful. It makes it more beautiful by the use of language. And for example, if you look here at the two turtle poetries, which one would be better? You look at the first one. The turtle comes out of the water, walks across the sand, digs a nest, and lays some eggs. Or we say that the turtle breaks from the blue-black skin of the water, dragging her shell with its mossy scutes across the shallows and through the rushes, and over the mud flats to the uprise to the yellow sand, to dig her ungainly feet a nest, and hunkered there spewing her white eggs down into the darkness. Which one is better? Now, maybe some of you say, I like the left one. It's a bit easier and it's shorter. If we're looking at the poetic features, then the second one, the longer one, is good because it uses a lot of figurative language and it uses a lot of sensory details. Yeah, breaks from the blue-black skin of water. Water doesn't have a skin, but it means the surface. You see that? So that would even be a personification, for example, because water doesn't have skin, not like humans do, right? And then the blue-black, uh, describing the color more clearly, dragging her shell with its mossy scutes. So dragging shows also about how heavy it is and how hard it is for the turtle to go on shore. So this one describes far more into the visuals, or if we talk the sensory details, as in we can better visualize it, see it, hear it, feel it, taste it imaginarily, you know? That's why this is written so strong. So what is figurative language? This is a review because you've had this already since grade 10. It presents ordinary things in a really fresh way. It creates imagery, mental pictures, communicating ideas that go beyond words that are just ordinary in meaning. So if we're using figurative language, we're creating deeper meaning. For example, if we're looking at simile, a comparison of two unlike things using the words like and as. Life is like a box of chocolates. That's from the movie with Tom Hanks, right? The girl is as beautiful as a rose. The willow is like an etching. So here, life is compared to a box of chocolates. The girl is compared to a rose, and the willow is compared to etching. So we use like and as, and that gives a deeper meaning because we will imagine that object that it is compared to. A metaphor is also a comparison of two unlike things, but it is not as obvious and it does not use the words like and as. For instance, my father is a tall, sturdy oak. So that is a comparison, but not as obvious as a simile. The father is compared to an oak. The hotel is a diamond in the sky, or who knows if the moon's a balloon. These are all metaphors. We've got personification, as what I mentioned just now, the giving of human qualities to an animal, object, or idea. For example, hunger sat shivering on the road. How can hunger shiver? The flowers danced on the law. Flowers do not dance. Or SpongeBob SquarePants and Smokey the Bear are personified characters because a sponge cannot be alive and this bear cannot be like a human, but they are personified. They become like humans, you know? So that is personification, which is a lot used in cartoons or in cartoons. Hyperbole, you know that already, when we exaggerate something An apple a day keeps the doctor away. That's a huge exaggeration. I could sleep for a year, dude. I'm so tired. I could eat a cow. When I'm very hungry, I say to my kids, I could eat a cow. That's also a huge exaggeration. You know what? This book weighs a ton. This is what you guys said about Keystone. This book weighs a ton. So heavy. Hyperbole, yeah? But it gets the point across, you know? Imagine the imagery. Now, so figurative language basically helps you imagine and create mental pictures in your head. So figures of speech or vivid descriptions used to produce mental pictures. They appeal to the five senses. So it is important that you get hearing, taste, touch, sight, you know. For example, here her clammy back felt bark. Oh, this is not a good day. The small pond behind my house was lapping as its banks. The willow music is like a soprano. So basically, what we're using, if we use sensory details, we're building imagery in our head. Imaginarily, we can see it, hear it, feel it, touch it, and even taste it. That's the strength of it. Now, a sounds device is also important because that comes back a lot in poetry as well. So the effect of a poem can depend on the sound. So that would be onomatopoeia. Remember that? The sound words are important, onomatopoeia. So we use, for example, bang, hiss, buzz, pop, the bang of a gun, the hiss of a snake, the buzz of a bee, the pop of a firecracker. So these sound words are very important as well. I don't know if you know this picture, this bee. I love this bee because this was a cartoon that we had when I was little, and now I forgot what her name was, Emma or something. There was this guy bee and this girl bee, and they were like the besties. And they sat in these big leaves, and those were their chairs, and they had all these adventures. That was when I was little. Not interesting. Gotcha. But yeah,
Wait, is that the B movie?
what the this one actually, yeah, so cute. Yeah. Okay, that's the onomatopoeia, right? And then we've got repetition, which is used a lot in poetry as well, right? The repetition of sound or words or phrases or lines. And that really creates the emphasis on an idea. Or often poets also use that to create a feeling. Yeah, for example, sing a song full of faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song of the hope that the present has brought us. Or this one, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Or the isolation during my vacation created a situation of relaxation. That's nice too. So you can see here that repetition definitely brings a deeper meaning. Or as the sound device rhyme all the time, and I guess it sounds fine. Now, repetition of sounds at the end of the word, so rhyme occurring within a line is called internal rhyme. So internal rhyme is when you get the rhyme within the sentence in the middle, but the rhyme that comes at the end of the line, we call it end rhyme. So you've got internal rhyme and end rhyme. Yeah. So if you have your rhyme scheme, I think we talked about this already last week, last year. Rhyme scheme is the pattern of end rhyme in a poem. So lines that rhyme are given the same letter. I think you will remember this, like A, B, A, B. Remember that in the stanzas? For example, of internal rhyme, end rhyme, and rhyme scheme. I looked at the shell in the ocean. So we've got shen, ian, ocean, motion. This is a rhyme scheme going on, AA. And we've got shell, bell, smell. This is internal rhyme, shell, bell, smell. Yeah. And we've got see and me. That's the B. That is the end rhyme. So we've got internal rhyme. We've got end rhyme, ocean, motion, see and me. Yeah. So the rhyme scheme here is A, B, A, B. We're very particular to me. So I looked at the shell in the ocean. I looked at a bell in the sea. I noticed the smell and the motion were very particular to me. We also here see looked, looked. That is a starting, yeah. Do you have rhythm? Give rhythm in your poetry is also beautiful. Pattern of sound created by stress. So you create more emphasis. Unstressed, less emphasis can also do. Many poems are given diacritical markings depending on the rhyme. So I looked at the shell in the ocean. I looked at the bell in the sea. I noticed the smell and the motion were very particular to me. Automatically, you get a rhythm going in this, which is also very nice in poetry. Another sounds device used is assonance. That's, you know this already. You got this already in grade 10 and 11. Assonance is the repetition of the vowel sounds. Yeah. At the beginning, can be at the beginning, the middle, or the end of the word, or at least two words in a line of a poetry. So the repeating, for example, EH sounds like crescent, flash, extending, medicine, and death. Crescent, flash, extending, medicine, and death all have ah. So that could be the beginning, the middle, or the end, but it's the repetition of the same vowel sound. So we also have the repetition of the consonant sounds. That is called consonants. So as assonance repeats the vowel sounds, consonants repeats the consonant sounds. They can also be at the beginning, the middle, or the end. So for example, here we have the consonants sh, sh, yeah, shush, wish, sharp, sharp, cushion, and quash. So shush, which is repeated throughout. Alliteration, that's the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of at least two words in a line of poetry. So we have one particular letter. The frog frolicked frivolously on a forest floor, or little skinny shoulder blades sticky through your clothes, or struck out by a steed flying fearless and fleet. It's all F, 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 or S, S, S. So is it different from consonants? It is. Consonants has the repetition of the consonant sound beginning, middle, or end. That doesn't matter where it comes. But if we're talking alliteration, it's really one letter and it's mostly at least two words in line, two words after each other. Now, what is form? This is also important. The form of a poem involves the physical arrangement of the words on the page, sometimes involving rhyme and sometimes rhythm. Yeah. So what is form then? We have stanzas, right? You can have a line. A line is a sentence or fragment of a sentence. But if we're talking stanza, that is a group of more than one line together. It's like the paragraph, but in poetry we don't say paragraph, but we call it stanza. So that is how it's physically arranged, either line or stanza. Yeah. Now you could have the form of a couplet. We did this already last year, guys. A pair of lines that rhyme. So a couplet may be a poem in itself or part of a larger poem. So there can be, you can have many couplets, right? More than one. An example of a couplet: the artist stirred some blue and green to paint an underwater scene. Green and scene, like, yeah, well, you have this rhyme going on here with the last two words. So in a couplet, it rhymes. Haiku, that is, it doesn't rhyme. A haiku has no rhyming. It consists of 3 lines and 17 syllables. Yeah, very interesting. These poems are normally about nature. Haikus mostly about nature. So the first line is like 5 syllables, and then the second line is 7, and the third line is 5. So that kind of goes off and on and off and on. For example, the autumn wind blows, calling the leaves on the ground to join him in a dance. And that goes, and then another 7 syllables like that. And it goes on until, and mostly if it is one stanza like this, yeah, this is 17. So 3 lines, 17 syllables, 5, 7, 5. And that could be repeated several times. A limerick, that is a humorous 5-line poem made up of 13 beats. So this is where we go with our A, A, B, B, A. It's a different rhyme scheme. Just now we saw A, B, A, B. The poem is named after the city of Limerick in Ireland, where they came up with the idea, and it should be humorous. So it has a clear beat. Yeah. An example of a limerick: there was a young boy from Kabul who had trouble tying his shoe. He said to his ox, "I'll just walk in my socks." Now all of his friends do that too. It automatically gets this thing going because of the emphasis that they use in their syllables in the rhyme scheme of A, B, B, A. So 3 beats, 3 beats, 2 beats, 2 beats, 3 beats, like that. Yeah. A, B, B, A. And then we've got a quatrain. That one is a 4-line poem of any kind. So they're often combined to form a larger poem. Yeah. Its rhyme scheme may be A, B, B, can be A, B, A, B, can be A, B, C, B, or A, B, B, A. That doesn't matter. But it always has this rhyme scheme going back, always going back within 4 lines, not more than 4 lines. Yeah, for example, a robin sitting in a tree turned her head and winked at me. She sang a song as if to say, "I'm glad to see you here today." There is nothing quite so peaceful as the sound of gentle rain, pitter, pitter, patting against my window pane. Yeah, this idea of pitter, pitter, patting is also very nice because that gives like uh, a change. It gives another sphere to this whole poem having this the P. This is where you have your alliteration, right? P, P, P coming back. And then the sounds of itter, itter, and then adding. Interesting. So quatrain. Quatrain always goes back to 4 lines. Ah, a cinquain, an unrhymed 5-line poem with 5 lines. Yeah, the first line is one word that names the subject, and then the second is 2 words that describe the subject. It's so interesting. And then the third line is 3 action verbs that describe the subject, and then 4 words that describe the feeling about the subject. And then the fifth line is 1 word that is a synonym or a summary of the subject. It's very short if you think of it. Butterflies, gentle creatures, fluttering, searching, landing, lovely flashes of light, miracles. Granda, I find that awesome. I don't know about you. I love, love, love these. These are these poems where someone stands up and says, "I want to share a poem," and goes, "Butterflies," and just says 1 word, and everybody is like so quiet. You have this silence, and then it's just gentle creatures, fluttering, searching, landing, lovely flashes of light, miracles. And then that's it, And everybody goes like, there's this moment of silence, and everybody goes like, "Hey," so cool. Like so few words, but boom, with that intense emotion. I don't know about you. I like it. That's immense though. Yeah. So these sequence, these are really how to say this. I think it is super hard to write it also because you're only writing all together. Do the counts. That is like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 words. Only 11 words, but you get the introduction of the subject, the description of the subject, verb to describe the subject, the feeling about the subject, and the summary, all in so few words. Yeah, so cool. Okay, so basically this already uh let's go out. Yes. Okay, these are the different types. Oh wait, we're not even done. Why didn't it go on? Oh, we have a few more. Um, I think it was, what is that? No, 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 not Cal. It's the internet. Sorry, guys. It's internet problems. We learn patience. Right? Okay, there we go. Dude, patience is real. Loading. Maybe that's the subject. Loading. Hey, no, maybe you can make a poem out of that. The frustration of having to wait for loading. Loading. Real time.
Loading
Yeah.
because I'm having connection problem here as well.
Oh my
Everyone
God.
is also lagging in my
We all have weird faces right now. Okay, and enjambment. The running over of a line or thought into the next line with a strong
everyone
break or pause. We're like all lagging right now. Okay. So running over a line or thought into the next line without a strong break or pause. Example, I'm feeling rather sleepy, but I really don't know why. I guess it is the way the day has spun out of control. So it keeps going on. This is interesting as well. How it doesn't leave, because it doesn't stop. It gives the comma and then the but, which means that you keep reading, right? So it kind of is as if it goes through one into the other. Then we've got, of course, free verse poetry that does not contain a regular pattern or rhyme, and rhythm is called a free verse. We talked about this last year as well. The lines flow more naturally and have everyday speech rhythm. Poets who write in free verse often use the sound devices we have already discussed. And this is an example from Mae Swenson's Southbound on the Freeway. They all hiss as they glide, like inches, down the marked tapes. Those soft shapes, shadowy insides, the hard bodies, are they their guts or their brains? So here you have assonance, consonants, and actually alliteration. And here also you have enjambment because as you see here, it continues as well. Like here with the hyphen and then this is, yeah, and then are they their guts and their brains? So and here is the period, right? Down the marked tapes period and it continues. So there is an enjambment in it as well where it continues. So figurative language, sounds devices, and forms. Those are the ones that we have discussed just now. Which are all very important when we use poetry. Now, if you look at here at your unit schedule, you can see here that I have the poem information, poetry information from Spark Notes, the Google Slides, and something about the author. So you can go further into understand the importance of poetry. And here also, if you go down a little bit, down on the schedule, you see here literary techniques and elements. This is the material that explains the techniques and the elements of literature. Yeah, so that is important for you to look at as well. And that is here and below. It's all in your unit schedule. You can just access it. Now, let's look at our Spark Notes. Now, Spark Notes is an amazing educational site for teachers and students to access any literary work that is discussed. Now, in this case, we're looking at the hope. Hope is a thing with feathers. Let's go over the summary first. I'd like to ask Aline to read the summary with us. Aline, can you read the summary?
Yeah, sure. Summary. The speaker describes hope as a bird, the thing with feathers that perch in the soul. There, it sings wordlessly and without pause. The song of hope sounds sweetest in the gale, and it would require a terrifying storm to ever abase the little bird or that kept so many warm. The speaker says that she has heard the bird of hope in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, but never, no matter how extreme the conditions, did it ever ask for a single crumb from her.
Yes, very good. Okay. So the thing with feathers is referred to as the bird, right? That perches in the soul. So this goes quite deep, yeah. Now, what form does this one have? We need to look at that. Okay, the speaker says that she has heard the bird of hope in the chillest lands. It means like in a time that is the hardest, she heard or she received or she felt hope. And one of the strangest sea, but never, no matter how extreme the conditions, did it ever ask for a single crumb from her. So it is as if hope came to her. In even the hardest of circumstances, hope was there with her. And so, Emily Dickinson was also a Christian. So a lot of her poetry was also influenced by her believing God. Yeah. But you wouldn't see that if you read it. You're like, is that what it means now? Really? Okay. What is the form that she uses? What kind of poem is that? Matthew, can you read that with us?
Yes, miss. Hello.
Yeah, can you read it?
Uh, the form one
Yes.
form, like almost all of Dickinson's poems, hope is the thing with feather. Takes the form of an iambic trimeter that often tends to include a fourth stress at the end of the line, as in and sings the tune out of the words. Like almost all of the poems, it modifies and breaks up the rhythmic flow with long dashes indicating breaks and pauses, and never stops at all. The stanzas, as in most of Dickinson's lyrics, rhyme loosely in an ABCB scheme, though in this poem there are some incidental carryover rhymes. Word in line 3 of the first stanza rhymes with earth and bird in the second. Extremity rhymes with sea and me in the third stanza, thus technically conforming to an ABBB rhyme scheme.
Yeah, so you can see that she uses different schemes in different stanzas. Yeah. So this called an iambic trimeter that often expands to include the fourth stress at the end of the line. So it gives a stress at the end of its line. Yeah. Okay. The commentary about this simple metaphorical description of hope as a bird. So hope is resembled as a bird. Yeah. Singing in the soul is another example of Dickinson's homiletic style derived from psalms and religious hymns. Dickinson introduces her metaphor in the first two lines. She says, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. Then develops it throughout the poem by telling what the bird does sing, how it reacts to hardships. It is unabashed in the storm, means that the bird, even though being in the storm, does not waver, does not fail. Yeah, where it can be found everywhere from the chillest lands to the strangest sea. And what it asks for itself, nothing, not even a single crumb. So hope in this poem is resembles strength because it withstands everything, yeah, every hardships. And on top of that, it is not selfish because it doesn't ask for anything. That's how she speaks of hope. Though written after success is counted sweetest, this is still an early poem for Dickinson, and neither her language nor her themes here are as complicated and explosive as they would become in her more mature work from the mid 1860s. Still, we find a few of the verbal shocks that so characterize Dickens's mature style to use of abash. For instance, to describe the storm's potential effect on the bird, wrenches the reader back to the reality behind the pretty metaphor. While a singing bird cannot exactly be abashed, the word describes the effect of the storm or a more general hardship upon the speaker's hopes. So we can see here that Dickinson describes the idea of hope itself and shows it as it being, so the symbol that she uses is a, what symbol does she use to resemble with hope? Anyone? What symbol does hope represent? The bird. The bird is what resembles hope. Yeah? And the bird goes through the hard times and the good times. Yeah? She explains how it reacts to hardships. It is unabashed in the storm. Abashed means embarrassed, ashamed. That is abashed. But she talks about how this bird, through hardships and storms and difficulties, is not embarrassed, and the bird is not ashamed. It keeps moving forward. It goes from storm to storm through difficulties. It keeps going. And what it asks for itself is nothing. It doesn't seek itself. It doesn't seek what it needs. So in this case, she's saying that hope is strength. Hope will never be ashamed. Hope will never give up. Hope will never be embarrassed. Hope will never ask for itself, but will give. This is very deep if you think about it. So let that sink in for yourself when we read it. Let's look at it. I want to ask Kirana to read the first stanza.
Hope is the thing with feathers. Should I continue?
Yes.
So, okay. That perch in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all.
Continue.
Oh, and sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
That's it. That's a very short rhyme. Yeah. So there are 3 stanzas. They have 4 lines. Yeah. We're going to go over the poetic devices that we can see in here. But the first stanza, hope is the thing with feathers. So it's the bird, right? It symbolizes the bird. That purchase in the soul, what does that mean? What is purchase? What is that purchase in the soul?
Somewhere to rest.
Somewhat?
Somewhere to rest.
Right. Where it stays quiet. Very good. It's maybe like a branch or something, right? So good. So in this case, what does that mean then?
Hope is like a bird that it is a place to rest for our soul.
Wow, yeah, exactly. And you could also see that as if hope is within. It's the hope is within the soul, right? If hope is the bird, and the bird's perches in the soul, then hope is what rests within us, right? Yeah, so cool. And sings the tune without the words. Sings the tune without the words. What does that mean to you? Sings the tune without the words.
It's something that is very personal and it's going on inside of us. So we're not even saying a word, but it's still there.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Tommy, what do you think? Tommy? It's good to see you, man. What do you think it means, Tom? And sings the tune without the words. Oh, your connection is interesting.
Me?
Yeah? Okay, I get you. I got you. It's a got it. Uh, yeah,
I think
yeah? Can't really hear you, Tommy.
Sylvia, I'm lagging.
Yeah, I got it. It's okay. Never mind. Michelle, what do you think, Michelle?
I think it's like we never we never like communicate and speak about it, but it's like that feeling is always inside of us.
It's there, yeah? And it never stops at all, no matter the circumstances. So cool. Thank you. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and some must be the and sore must be the storm that could abash the little birds. They kept so many warm. Okay, this goes quite deep. What do you think about the second stanza? And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little birds. So the storm that could make the little bird, or the storm, the hardships of life that could make hope embarrassed or give up, that kept so many warm. Jordi, what do you think about this stanza?
Yes, yes.
What do you think about this one, the second one?
I don't really know. It's so deep.
What do you get out of it? I would like to know what you get out of it. Hello, Jordi. No? Hello. Jordi? Okay, maybe someone else? Cynthia, Marlies, what do you think about the second stanza?
Mm, um, I think hope brings like light when there's like a storm or challenges. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. That it gives challenges, that it brings hope, and that it is the challenges through life, probably, yeah? And that it is heard, that hope has this sweetness to it. You know, if there's no hope, people would give up, right? There's a lot of people who survive life simply because of hope, right? Think about people who are in a war that have the hope to survive, and that gives them the last push and or strength to move forward. Or people in any circumstance, even in your own life, hope is what gives you the drive. Hope is what makes you move forward. So hope is a sweet thing. It's sweet, it's warm, it's home, it's strength at the same time. Somehow hope resembles this beauty and also this fragility, but also at the same time strength, you know? And as the storms or the situations in life can be very hard, but hope does not give up. And so it can keep warm, so it can keep giving life. Yeah. It's something like Eno explains, deep inside in the soul, but at the same time powerful enough to make us move. So it's quite strong in its meaning. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity. It asks a crumb of me. What does that mean? Anyone who would like to respond to that? Teguh, what do you think?
Of the third stanza.
Yeah.
Uh,
What do you think, according to you?
mm, I, I think it truly define you in any kind of situation.
Okay. No matter what circumstance. Yeah. So it's like if you say that, like I've heard it in the chillest land, so in the hardships. I've heard it on the strangest sea, in the unknown. Yet never ever in extremity, that means to the furthest extent, in the worst of the worst, has hope ever asked something of me, which really describes hope as being selfless. If you're looking at this poem, Hope is the Thing with Feathers, that is kind of a hymn of praise, giving praise written to honor actually the human capacity for hope, honoring hope itself. Using metaphors, yeah, because we see here the hope, which is a metaphor, is the thing with feathers, means that hope is compared to a bird. Yeah, it portrays hope as a bird that lives within the human soul deep inside of us. And this bird sings no matter what happens, whether it rains or the sun shines, whether we are in peace or whether we are in a storm, in the good times and the bad times, it will keep chirping and singing. It will keep going strong and it will keep going forward. That is basically what this poem resembles or tries to explain. The hope within our soul that makes us move forward and the beauty of it. Now, if we're looking at it, Emily Dickinson, because she was a Christian, took a lot of her poetry from the Word of God. So for her, hope was Christ. For her, hope was God. And God and Jesus within the soul, within my heart, in the deepest core of my being is the core, the core of my being is Christ, means is hope, because Jesus is hope. Can you imagine if your core, the core of your being, which is your soul, is rooted in Christ and is Christ, then basically you can never waver. Good may come, bad may come, but you will always be grounded. It will be strong, yet gentle and loving, yet powerful and mighty. You know what I mean? And that's basically also what this poem can resemble if you read it a little bit thorough, yeah? Okay, beloveds, it's already time. We're going to continue with this next week. Look a little bit more at some poetic devices with regards to this poem. Are there any questions still? If not, I want to thank you for today, for your effort and your presence. You're awesome. God bless you. Bye-bye.